The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Access Fort Wayne is a department of the Allen County Public Library. If you or anyone you know might be interested in making a television show, please call 260-421-1250.
Hi, welcome to the Kachmann Wellness Show. This show invariably is about stopping, preventing, reversing diabetes, but it's Rudy's war on diabetes. What am I saying? I've tried every which way for medical schools, government, public health to start to teach the public with information how to stop, prevent diabetes. It's not that hard, but they're not doing it, okay? So to bring some attention to the subject, I keep on advancing the cause. I mean, I wrote some books in the past, Secret of Reversing Diabetes, okay? A book I wrote almost 10 years ago, okay? More information has come out, since that time. I'm friends with Dr. Joel Fuhrman, who wrote a book, End of Diabetes. I like confirmation, other people confirming what I'm saying. He's, internationally very well known. He's very famous. My name, incidentally, is on back of the book. I reviewed for him, and he threw my name on there, and I thought that's a compliment. But it's confirmation. He's the world expert. Then I wrote another book. Okay, to me, we're slaves to sugar. Sugar is really the main problem. So I called it the new slavery. Prevent, stop, reverse sugar addiction. We're addicted to sugar. It makes us feel good. We have a lot of stress in our lives, and some light up cigarettes, some of alcohol, some of narcotics. And then we add sugar, or we have some variation of that to feel good. Okay, we're stressed out. And we're developing diabetes, which causes about 30, 40 diseases. We tell people, well, you have high blood pressure. You know what the problem really is? They got diabetes. Mm-hmm. And if we ran the proper test, just listen to this. Dr. Joseph Kraft, K-R-A-F-T, okay, did research in 1970s, autopsied 3,000 people, had his fellow doctors run glucose and insulin tolerance tests on 14,000 people, and then in 2006 published this book. You can get it on the internet, Joseph Kraft, or at the library here. I encourage you to read it. It's easy to read, take a night or two, and it tells you the answer that the serum insulin gets elevated around 15 to 20 years before the sugar goes up. So we could diagnose type 2 diabetes and its 30 to 50 diseases it causes, including cancer and dementia and sudden heart attacks and strokes and amputations and renal transplants, and I can name many more diseases. They could all be avoided. Mm-hmm. All we'd have to do is run serum insulins on people, even as children, which they don't do. I went to the state head of the Pediatric Society, and he wouldn't bring it to the forefront. Nice guy, you know his name. I don't know why. We could prevent this huge adult epidemic by diagnosing people as children. They could lose 5 pounds, teach them to eat different food. They wouldn't get all these chronic illnesses I mentioned. There's no difference between pre-diabetes and diabetes. They can have the complications of diabetes, which I mentioned already: dementia, thyroid disease, renal disease, dental disease, thyroid disease, heart attacks, strokes, amputations, dislocations, skin diseases. 60% of cancer is due to diabetes. Cancer is a sugar feeder. The cancer cells get their energy through fermentation, Otto Warburg described in the 1930s. It takes 13 molecules of sugar to make 1 ATP in a cancer patient, so they need a lot of sugar. Cancer wants sugar, and they anaerobically ferment it, and it could be prevented. Then other books came along, again confirming what I have. I like confirmation. These ideas I had 15, 20 years ago, and it turns out I was right. Okay? But the Diabetic Association, the Vascular Surgical Association, who I pointed this out to, have not acted to date that I'm aware of, including some of the hospitals. I've been there. So one of the a book I read recently, and Dr. Jason Fung, F-U-N-G. Wonderful book to read. He's from Toronto. He is from Toronto. A renal doctor of all things. You can see him on YouTube all the time. I look at one of his little talks probably daily, almost daily. And he writes a lot about fasting. It's not that necessary, but I'll tell you about it a little bit. But what he is saying is that diabetes is created by medication they prescribe to you. Yeah. Would you believe that? It's a created disease. So I suggest you listen, and 90% chance you can get rid of diabetes, month or two. Not everybody can because they had it too long. But month or two, we're talking about type 2 mainly. You know, type 1 is where you have no insulin. But even those people, if properly tested as children, say once a year, you can check that the insulin level is dropping. You can change things in their life, and maybe they won't develop the disease. That's been done in some cases, where the insulin level is extremely low because your pancreas is dying because of a viral infection. Milk drinking can do it. Gluten can do it. So you could avoid gluten or not drink milk, and you could avoid the road to type 1 diabetes. There's no program generally across the country on that. It's in the literature. I'll show it to you if you want to see it. Okay? So to get this book, the Diabetes Code, and what he says, prevent and reverse type 2 diabetes naturally. Okay. No medication, no surgery, just eating nutrient-dense food. And like I said, he says a lot about fasting, that doubles the rate of you getting rid of diabetes. But I'm talking about, he has 3 types of fasting he teaches. I'm talking about intermittent, very short term. In other words, for no reason except it suits me, I eat 2 meals a day, okay? So the amount of time between my last meal around 6 and the morning meal around 9 is a long period of time, okay? And he would actually divide it into, if you can go 16 hours without eating. That's intermittent fasting. 15 would be fine. And what happens is you use up your insulin level is drops because you're not eating sugary products. You're not eating, and then you go into fat metabolism, and any fat you have in your body, you may be trying to get rid of, and you'll quickly lose the weight you like to lose. Although some people are thin and have diabetes too, but their fat is in their liver, or in their pancreas, or in their gut. So they need to get rid of their diabetes. So intermittent fasting is just the length of time between meals. Other types of fasting, which you know is in the Bible, 1,000 years ago, it's in the Bible, it's in cultures. That's not necessary. If you're on diabetic medication, then fasting runs a little bit of risk because of sudden blood sugar drops, okay? So if you're going to try to get rid of your diabetes, check your blood more frequently. Get one of these monitors where you can just use your iPhone. I think it's fantastic. Fantastic way to do it. So Jason Fung, he says it in there. It's a created disease. These drug companies that sell you insulin, this stuff, insulin is anabolic. It opens the cell, pushes sugar into the cell, and that's why you gain weight. It does many other things too. But if you read this book, it goes into more detail if you happen to want to know it in more detail. Then recently, I ran across another book, which again is confirmation. And I think this is a book I highly suggest that you read. It's written by Tom Jelinek, PhD, who had diabetes himself, got rid of it. What does he say? I'll show you the cover in a minute. What does he say? A total rethink. Well, what I've been talking about, a rethink, right? I've been rethinking it 20 years. I like this book, though. It confirms what I'm saying, okay? A total rethink of type 2 diabetes and a 90-day cure. He says cure, okay? Tom Jelinek. I encourage very highly that you read this book. I want you to gather information. I'm a man about information, okay? Remember, this is Rudy's War on Diabetes, and my bullets are information. The information. Going to teach you. Going to teach the doctors. Going to teach the public. Maybe someday the government will listen. Healthcare costs would cut in half if children were tested for this. We taught them proper eating and exercise. Diabetic rates would drop. The 30, 50 diseases that are due to diabetes would disappear, and healthcare costs would cut in half, at least. Yeah, at least. Mm-hmm. So it's a great book. And then the last one, which I mentioned to you already, Rudy's War on Diabetes. Okay? Easy to read, cheap if you want to get it. I'm not here to sell books. I'm here to hand out information. My troops are information. So I had a person say to me recently whose family is being destroyed by diabetes. Every other one is getting legs amputated from vascular disease. Remember I said insulin is the first thing gets elevated in diabetes, and that punches a hole in the endothelium, and that's a small microvasculature. And that starts the vascular disease process. If you read Dr. Joseph Kraft's book, easy to read, okay? Maybe have a look at that, okay? Easy to read. Maybe read it a couple of times, go through it. I keep on reading it once a month because it's just fascinating that this is not absolutely required reading for the medical students. If you were to go to endocrinologist, maybe a diabetic doctor, or head of the Diabetic Association, ask him if they ever read the Kraft book. I'll bet you they didn't. If they did, give them a hug. Maybe they did because they heard me speaking about it. But Joseph Kraft can be reached also, incidentally, on YouTube. He's there, 92 years old, talking to Dr. Cummings, the most famous obesity doctor in the world. They're having this great conversation. Dr. Cummings says to him, well, do you ever expect the country to change or the world to change? This is a pandemic. It's all over the world to change. And he says, I'd be looking down on them before they changed. Well, maybe he's watching me right now because he's died since that time. But it's fun. It's great to watch this YouTube show too. So if you watch Joseph Kraft YouTube show, and if you then watch Dr. Jason Fung YouTube shows, and if you need to know more about diabetes too, you can go to YouTube, Rudy Kachmann, Diabetes. I got a few hundred shows on there, but I would segregate the diabetes ones and make a plan to get rid of the disease. I had a friend of that family I was describing where they all got diabetes and get an amputation, say, because he has it, and he said to me, I respect diabetes. No, I don't want you to respect diabetes. I want you to get rid of it. Remember what Dr. Jason Fung said? Those medications they give you cause the disease. We spoke about insulin, which is anabolic, makes the fat cell, makes you heavy, and they give a lot of metformin, okay, at the beginning of diabetes management. And what does metformin do? Well described in this book here by Dr. Jelinek, that metformin stuffs sugar into the liver cells and the muscle cells. Well, that's what insulin does, doesn't it? So the blood sugar drops, but the cells are bigger. Cells are bigger. You think that's healthy? Also, it reduces the making of sugar in the liver, gluconeogenesis, okay? But it has, so it's really not doing your body that much good. And it does this through an AMP enzyme. That's how it works. So insulin, metformin are not necessarily good for you. But you check with your doctor, read this book so you understand it better. And if you want to get rid of type 2 diabetes quickly, because what's down the line for you, one of the common things diabetes does, one of the first signs is visual problems. Actually, the first thing, it affects the hearing because it has the smallest blood vessels in your body. Like Meniere's disease is 95% diabetes. Tinnitus, buzzing in the ears, a lot of that is adult diabetes. Next, the eyes, retinal changes, retinal hemorrhages, cataracts, dental disease. Remember the queens 100, 200 years ago, they all had black teeth. Many had no teeth because they could afford sugar. They were eating 100 pounds of sugar, 200 pounds of sugar. They could afford it. They were called the sugar kings. They even had slavery over sugar because it was so expensive. But if you had slaves you could bring it in, it was cheap. Okay, that's what slavery was all about. Sugar, the booger and the hooker. Okay, And then Columbus imported sugary beets and then they brought slaves to the outlying islands and to America to make it cheaper, and people started becoming ill. So if you can teach a child, for example, to eat properly, to avoid sugary products, we got to teach them. Kids get under stress. They're under stress a lot. They're developing in life, and they have all types of stresses from peer groups and parents and school, and they like a quick fix. They'll light up a cigarette, take a drug, eat a donut. I'm familiar with that. Believe me, in my years past, I'd have learned about donuts in the doctor's lounge, but I knew the girl running the lounge. Mm-hmm. And I was reading books over 20 years ago already and learned a lot and saw it in my patients. So I got her to change what was served in the doctor's lounge. I managed to get in a lot of vegetables and fresh fruits of color. Good food generally has color to it. The exceptions, onions, mushrooms, they have no color, but they're also good food. They're full of nutrients and phytochemicals. You want to eat fresh food. Dr. Lustig, L-U-S-T-I-G, very famous. He's also mentioned in this book here by Tom Jelinek, whose work I know a lot about. He's on YouTube too, Lustig. And sugar, for example, says diabetes type 2 should be called processed food disease. When you process food, you take off the coverings, for example, the bran, that's the covering, the germ, that's reproduction. And you take those coverings off, so you're missing the fiber. Fiber is your friend because fiber is how to digest. It goes into the colon and may pass out in the stool totally. So if you're eating high fiber foods, you're not absorbing all the calories because fiber is your friend. So what should you be eating? What should you be eating? Low sugar, okay? Low sugar, fatty foods, good fat. You need to learn the difference between good fat and bad fat, okay? Nuts, guacamole, olives are good fats, okay? Why are fats good? Because they cause no insulin response. And you go into fat metabolism. Mm-hmm. If you're eating, of course, a tremendous amount of fat, could you get fat? Yeah, you could get fat. So we're talking about good fats, low carbohydrate, okay? You got to understand what we get sugars, but the chains can get longer, and there may be carbohydrates, but if they're stripped of their nutrients and their covers, like a baked potato, you can take the cover off and eat nothing but the white part. That's mainly sugar. Not you couldn't have one now and then, but you got to pay some attention and then eat some fatty foods. See, for 50 years, they told us that fat was the problem. Mm-hmm. 50 years, industry, Congress, also Keyes, told us fat was the problem. So they recommend a low-fat, high-carbohydrate diet based on incorrect science. And that's why in the world, and especially the U.S. now, we have a tremendous amount of chronic disease. The hospitals are full of these patients. It was congressional lobbying. It was the recommendations of the government, McGovern Commission, that were incorrect. Which reminds me, the new recommendations for proper eating are put out by the federal government every 5 years. And the next report is coming in June, this month. Yeah. Now, will that be interesting? That the report says, Nina Teicholz, who wrote a book very thick called The Big Fat Surprise, she's speaking about this false information about that trans fats are bad, saturated fats are actually healthy, which the government said was incorrect. That she noticed these recommendations coming out in June. She got heard about a little bit. It's going to be the same old stuff lying through their teeth, lobbying money. But again, it's not here yet, but maybe they'll step up to bat and recommend a low carbohydrate, high fat diet. I'm talking about good fats, okay? And I recommend that you maybe keep a log what you eat if you get a problem. Maybe weigh yourself every day if you get a problem. I don't have a problem, but I weigh myself every day, 135 pounds. It'll vary a pound or two because of water content, okay? If I've been playing tennis or pickleball. So glycogen which stores sugars in your liver and in your muscles, carries with it quite a bit of water. So if you burn up the glycogen, which you have enough glycogen, which can last about a day. Mm-hmm. Even a thin person, incidentally, has in them quite a bit of fat. Yeah, it's in the muscles, between the muscles. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you're an athlete, you want to get in. We have about 40,000 calories of fat in our body. Only 2,000 of glycogen and sugar. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't know that. That if you're a triathlete, you might like to get into fat metabolism. Incidentally, if you are fasting, which I'm not suggesting except for the length of time between meals, is that after about 2 days, you kind of get over what's called the keto thing for a day or two, is you won't get hungry. Appetite goes away. But I don't suggest that you go into that. But if you do it on the basis of religion, that's up to you, okay? And I just want you to learn a little bit about the keto way, just a little bit. But I want you to eat many nutrient-dense food. So in summary, what I'm saying is, Rudy's war on diabetes. Rudy's war on diabetes, get rid of it. We're not asking for respect. We wanted to avoid it, which I already taught you to. But you need to, my soldiers are information, so you need to look at the YouTube. I'm also there to take that information, put it in the radio, Velt 95.7, Facebook, Live to Be 100, Rudy Kachmann, Wellness. You can get the information. So it's a combination of Facebook, YouTube, books, radio. See me in person at the Three Rivers Pharmacy, where I'll see you for nothing on Fridays. You call up there, 373-1083, Sheila, make an appointment. What else can I do? Why would I do such a thing? I love you. I care about you. Namaste. See you next time. This is wonderful news I passed out today. There's hope for us. Unless we don't act on it, then your lifespan probably will be 20 years less, with disability too, but can be avoided. Thank you.